Hi, I'm Shanta Navarro-Perez with the Presidential Living Team, powered by Compass, on a mission to make your real estate goals a reality, with a commitment to exceeding your expectations and dedication to providing concierge service. I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Whether you're buying, investing, or selling in the vibrant Central Florida market, my goal is to ensure your experience is not just smooth, but truly exceptional. Let's turn your real estate dreams into a reality.
This is Marcus Richardson, President and CEO of Rich Group Financial. We look forward to working with you and helping serve you in the financial service arena. So what that really means is we're going to be able to help you with life insurance for your mortgage protection, make sure that's taken care of when you pass. We're also going to be able to help you for your final expenses to make sure your burial, things like that are taken care of. We also are able to help you with retirement. So if you're losing money in the market and you want to stop losing money, you don't want to keep losing money, we can help you with that. And we also can help you with Medicare. So if you want to make sure you got all that taken care of, please reach out to Rich Group Financial. You can find us at richgroupfinancial.com, or you can also send us an email at richgroup28@gmail.com. And we'd love to serve you and help you and bring you into the family.
Welcome to the Pro Formula Podcast. I'm your host, Tarek Shabazz, and this podcast is all about professional development. So if you're trying to take your professional skills to the next level, you're in the right place. In order for us to be able to bring you this great content, I'm going to need you to like, subscribe, or hit that bell on our YouTube page. You can also go to our Instagram, or you can go to our Facebook account. We look forward to seeing you at our next show. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, welcome to the Pro Formula Podcast. I'm your host, Tarek Shabazz. And with this podcast, we really help professionals figure out that formula to take themselves and take their business to that next level. I'm super excited to be here with my man today, Mr. Nick Birdsong, who is the Director of Digital Media and Social Media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's up with you?
What's going on, man? Glad to be on. Glad you got me.
Man, I'm so excited to meet with you. There's so much that I want to talk to you about, and I'm sure that we're going to be able to help our listeners and our fans. But tell me a little bit about what you've been up to, man.
Well, like you said, I'm the Director of Digital and Social Media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So right now, just getting ready for the season. Obviously, just had an exciting off season with the draft. Schedule release was super successful this year. Yeah. And obviously, like coming off a good season where we made the playoffs, was a game away from making the AFC Championship. So really, just keeping our fans excited, keeping them engaged, and getting ready to rock and roll for the season.
Man, shout out to the Jags. That comeback against them Chargers last year had me happy as an AFC West fan, Denver Bronco fan. I'll put that out there more specifically. I was so happy to see y'all take them boys out of there. I don't know, when you were watching that game and you see you guys go down big in the first half, what are you thinking?
I was thinking we about to lose, man. like the wheels was falling off the bus, man. Obviously, like Trevor threw 4 interceptions in the first half. We get down 27-0, and just like nothing is going right. We had, I think, 4 turnovers. Had another one on special teams. I think the ball went off a guy's helmet or something. And to his credit, I got to give credit to my team, my social media manager, a guy named Charlie Jordan. The entire time we were in the press box, he was like, "We're going to win this game."
Shout out Charlie with the confidence.
So shout out my guy Charlie.
Yeah, that's what's up. So when you were, as you're watching those games, do you find yourself being like super invested, or are you still? I mean, are you super invested in the team and invested in what the team is doing? Obviously, you work for the organization,
yeah.
But do you find yourself getting caught up in the action of the game as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit different. Like in this role, I can kind of do that because I work exclusively for the team. So like the first half of my career, and I know we'll get into that later, I was a journalist where you're taught like to be objective. You're not impacted by the wins and the losses. Your job is to tell the story of what happened. So obviously, like in this job, we're still paying attention, and we have to, serve the fans the content during the game because we're covering it. But yeah, absolutely. Like we ride the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs, the 4 turnovers, the comeback. That was probably like the greatest, most fun night of my career. It was an amazing time. And yeah, so you can be invested when you work for the team. You still gotta make sure that you're on your P's and Q's, like when content comes through, making sure you're getting it and delivering it to our channels. But definitely, I think that's the cool part about working for a team is you get to be locked in and kind of root for them.
I like that.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about what your role is, what your role consists of. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so as a director, I have a team of about 7 or 8. I could bore you with the whole org chart if you want to get into it, but basically my job is to just steer our social and digital team. So the way that really breaks down for us is social is pretty self-explanatory. That's the social media channels that we're all on: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. And then digital is like YouTube and then the owned and operated. And when I say that, I mean the company's website, the company's app. YouTube falls under that team as well, even though that's pretty much a social media platform. And then, of course, we have like a LinkedIn and so on and so forth. So I pretty much manage the team that activates or publishes on all those channels.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I'm not testing your credentials, but what I want people to understand is like how do you get into a role like that where you're working on with the NFL team and now you are a director within this organization. Are you an ex-athlete, or is that how you got in there, or what did you do to get into this kind of a role?
Yeah, I'm an ex-athlete. Like I played in high school, man, but I wasn't like a big-time player in high school or college or anything. That really doesn't have anything to do with like how I got my position.
You don't have to be an athlete in order to get into this role. Listen and learn.
Yeah. I always joke when I'm going back and forth with some of my buddies who was like ex-athletes, maybe like in college or stuff like that. I'd be like, I probably make more money off sports than you.
That's right. That's a big flex.
But no, like honestly, like that is like my degree is in journalism, and so my path. I always try to tell people when they ask me like, well, how can I get into this industry or get into a role like yours? My path is a little bit different just because of the time, and so I'm 39, so. We're around the same age, so all of these social media platforms hadn't really like proliferated and weren't like they didn't exist. I try to tell my staff and like younger people a lot of times like, yo, I grew up in a time where social media didn't exist, and it's like the most unfathomable thing in the world to them. So for me, my path is a little bit different. So I have kind of like two answers. I'll tell you what I did, and then I'll tell you like now how you typically can kind of get into those roles.
I like that. What was your path?
Yeah, so my path was like I have a degree in journalism. Shout out to FAMU.
Come on now, FAMU.
You know how we come.
What is that? I know that's all the time. Every time I look up at somebody,
it ain't quite like that, but
show me what it looks like, man.
You on the right
path. I see him doing all that. I'm like, what does I look like a little snake or something? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not quite like that, but it's something similar. So basically, my degree is in journalism. So then, like journalism kind of existed in like 3 paths. I graduated in 2006. So you had newspaper journalism, which was to be a writer, editor for a newspaper. Then you had broadcast, which was to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, being a producer. And then you had public relations. So I went the newspaper route, and so the whole first half of my career, I was a reporter. I was a high school sports reporter. I was a college sports reporter.
Nice.
And then kind of around 2012, I made the transition into doing digital media. I worked for a company called Sporting News, and they kind of gave me an interesting opportunity. They were like, you can write for us, like on our news desk, I think it was at the time, or they was like, or you can, we see that you're, at the time I was on social media, like, you follow sports on social. We see the stuff you post. We're trying to up our social media presence. Do you want to like help run our social media channels? And so at the time I was like, man, well, I already know I can write. Like I've done that my whole career. Social media stuff seemed to be popping off, and they giving me an opportunity to kind of pick up a new skill or whatever. I was like, yeah, I just do that or whatever. And so I got the opportunity at that time. It was just Twitter and Facebook to kind of help run their channels for a brand or for a big company, which is kind of different than when you're doing it personally. And so that kind of led me into doing social media and stuff like that. And so that was kind of like the catalyst for how I made that transition into running social media handles and stuff. And I had some other responsibilities and roles when I was at Sport News as well. But that was kind of how I got on into doing that. Nowadays, usually you're going to have to, and then I was able to kind of hop skip a step and go straight into management. We can talk about that at some point.
I can't wait to get into that piece.
At some point if you want, how that happened. But nowadays, usually they have like programs where you some colleges have social media programs where you literally learn how to run social media and stuff in college, which didn't exist when I was there. And
social media for us was pagers, yo. We was on the pager. We were putting messages to each other in pagers. We didn't have ways to post and to get on. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, absolutely. So So now you're usually going to have to go into an entry level position, which is usually most places call it a coordinator, right? And so there's some skills that you're going to have in that role. Everybody knows how to publish on social media these days. I tell people you probably need to know how to publish. Capture is very important. You do it on your phone naturally anyway, but you're going to need to be able to edit or synthesize that, like filming something that's long and making it into something that's 30 or 60 seconds and palatable for a social media channel. And then you're probably going to have to know a little bit about analytics and how that informs the decisions that you make. So the native analytics that you get on your app, like, okay, what time should we post? Stuff like that. Those are kind of like the basic things, and you can hopefully land an entry-level role in social media, and then you kind of just work your way up from there. That's a general way to kind of describe it nowadays.
All of you future content creators, I hope you heard that. You sometimes got to start as a coordinator, work your way up from the coordinator, and you get yourself into some management. How were you able to parlay and get yourself into a management role?
Yeah, so it's two ways. Well, one, I got a job with the Nuggets.
Shout out to the world champion Denver Nuggets. Put some respect on them Nuggets, baby.
All right, so prior to working for the Jaguars, I worked for the Denver Nuggets. I was a manager of social media there, but really a lot of the skills that I had while I was at Sporting News, I was able to kind of talk the Nuggets into believing that I could run their social media because of that. So I had worked with a budget, which in some roles is important. I had hired freelancers, so I kind of had a staff. I knew how to like edit articles and stuff like that. So I'm managing the writers for the Nuggets website at the time, which was like one or two. So there was like a transferable skill set. In some ways. Now, obviously, it's not always like a one-to-one correlation. Like everything you do at your new job isn't exactly like what you did at your previous job.
That's right.
And so that was kind of how I was able to make that transition. It's not really traditional. And so I didn't go the coordinator route because that was an open position. And so that's why I tell people like my path is a little bit different. Like it might not match exactly what, you did or what you would do now in that role.
I like that. I want to talk a little bit about your career with the Nuggets, and obviously it helped to prepare you for this because you were working with the team and you were starting to work in that social media area. But is that what you started on with the Nuggets, was in the social media area?
Yeah, so with the Nuggets, it's a natural progression. So I was the manager of digital and social media for the Nuggets, and now like just a step up is a director. So it was very, very, very similar, kind of like a natural progression, like once I got to that space.
So working in the NBA and then working in the NFL, is it a commonality? Like we're in professional sports, it's the same, but obviously in NBA you got 82 games, NFL you got a 16-game season. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So of course it's professional sports at the highest level, so there are some commonalities. There are some differences as well, just from my observation. Now, you may talk to somebody else in that space and they may give you a different synopsis, but the way I break it down to people, like the difference between working in the NBA and the NFL is like the NBA, you have 15 players or 12 to 15 players on the roster. And I'm talking about it from the social media, digital media coverage. In the NFL, you have 53 players, right? And so there are some benefits and some whatever. I never can know what the opposite of a benefit is.
We'll call them advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah. I say that all the time. Like whenever I'm talking, I'm like, what's the opposite of a benefit? So disadvantage. So there's some advantages. Appreciate you, man. There's some advantages and disadvantages of that. And I think the two entities' business models, in my opinion, just from my observation, are a little bit different. I would say the NFL is, the richest, most profitable sports league in the world. And I think that from my observation, their business model helps to be that. Okay. Number one, football is a more casual sport. Like there are more casual fans of football than anything. Like we've all, I don't know if y'all have ever done like a fantasy football league, but you could be locked in on fantasy.
I'm a champ. I'm an fantasy champ.
But listen, I am too, and they should allow you to put that on resumes. And I feel like that say a lot about you. I always say like you can tell a lot about a person by how they conduct themselves in the fantasy football league. Like it brings stuff out that even like the regular work world don't. So like I got a couple titles under my belt, but y'all who've been in the league with me before, y'all know that. But anyway, I was saying like, so in my opinion, the NFL they market the shield, the NFL itself, number one.
Yeah.
Then they market the game of football. and then they market the franchises. So the example I always give is no matter what they call Dallas Cowboy football, it's going to sell. You know what I mean? And I'll link that to what I'm about to say. And then I think they market the players maybe like fourthly, right? And a large part of that is like the players have helmets on. You don't get to see them as much. They have to work a little bit more to be visible in the marketplace. And so the NBA is very player driven, right? So one of the examples that I gave with the Cowboys is like, remember a few years ago when Dak Prescott had that, we thought it might be like a career-ending injury early in the season.
Oh, yeah.
I always say, even if that was a career-ending injury, that would have been terrible for Dak. But for the Cowboys, their profit margins probably wouldn't have shifted really much at all because they built that brand, that star is what people are buying into. You a Broncos fan. You've seen the Broncos when they're up, when they're down, and you riding with them regardless.
That's right.
In basketball, you see it's a lot more player-driven, so you get to see these guys. You know a lot more about them. You know a lot more about their personalities. They have, more position, more power, just because it's more the skill set is more finite. You know what I mean?
So the NBA almost markets the player first.
Yeah, in my observation.
But no, I'm gonna go with you. Like my son, shout out to my son Amir and to my son Leslie. They are both LeBron James fans.
Yeah.
They weren't Cleveland fans.
Perfect
They
point.
weren't Laker fans.
Perfect point.
They're actually LeBron James fans. So wherever LeBron goes, that's where their loyalty goes. When he was with the Heat, they were with the Heat.
Exactly.
And I think in football, if your favorite player goes to another team, you might still root for him, but you're not changing teams because he's on that team.
Exactly, man. That exactly. So I think that's the difference that I see in the two entities in their business models, and I feel like the NFL's is more, well, it is more successful. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And it's more sustainable in a sense, and I feel like the NBA, it's beautiful that they're able to market people and personalities, but they have to always be on the hunt for how are we going to market that next person.
I like that.
And that person has to emerge. So
some of the challenges, it sounds like, when you're in the NBA, you got a grueling season, an 82-game season.
Yes.
So as a staffer, that must be a challenge.
Yeah.
But then you got 15 players that you can kind of really curate content around.
Exactly.
Where in the NFL, you got a shorter season, but you got 53 players that you got to kind of get to know and start curating that content. How is it now that you're in the NFL and you're working with 53 guys, how do you determine who you're going to spotlight, who you're going to put, an emphasis on, and who are you going to help market?
Yeah, I think your job is to market, all of the guys. Is to market the team in and of itself. Now, I'd be lying if I said that they're not like some guys who are more popular than others. Yeah. But I think the other beautiful thing about football is that you have the players to market to your audience, but they bring an audience with them from their college, and that college fandom is very, very strong. Sometimes even stronger than, as strong or stronger than some NFL teams. So it might be a rookie who's coming in, and obviously he hasn't proven himself in the NFL yet, but you can, with something like the Instagram collab tool, which is like a gift for all like content creators, you might post a play that he made in training camp and you collab with this college. And so now you're exposing, their fan base to the Players Pro Team fan base. And like you said, they are a fan of this guy, but they're also now paying attention to your channel. So I think, and sometimes the action just dictates it. Like, okay, this guy scores the most touchdowns. Yeah. And then you learn
He's the face of the organization. Trevor Lawrence is probably going to be highlighted and marketed a little bit more than the defensive tackle, who's the third string guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it is just in football, the quarterback is going to be a big deal. But the beautiful thing of it too is like you get to learn the guy's personalities, different things they're into, and you make that a part of the team's narrative and how you market the team.
I like that. I think it's interesting, just looking at the different dynamics of that. I want to kind of get into. Did you always want to be in sports? I know you were you said ex-athlete. Yeah. Shout out to the high school athletes out there. Yeah. But did you say, I'm going to stay in this, I got into journalism, and I'm going to find a way to stay into the game? Or how did that choose you?
Yeah, I think both, right? Like just everybody wants to combine their passion with what they do for a profession if they can, and obviously you end up having to make decisions based on I got these bills to pay or whatever. Yeah. So I ended up getting into journalism by accident when I was in high school, man. I played two sports. I played basketball and I played tennis. If anybody has seen.
You played tennis?
Yeah, I played tennis. That's a side. So basically, when I grew up going to like a park and rec that was also like a boys and girls club. Okay. But we had like all of these park directors and coaches and stuff that instead of playing like little kiddie games, we just played different sports. And so we got exposed to like everything. Okay. And so like me and a few of my friends from my neighborhood. Shout out to my boy Keon, my guy Kevin Kilkenny.
What's up? Yeah.
We started playing tennis and we liked it. And you think about it, there's a lot of similarities between tennis and basketball. You got to move laterally. I do the same defensive slides, like on the baseline and stuff like that. And so we liked it and, played some youth stuff. And then I ended up playing in high school. But how I got into journalism was, how you got to take like 2 years of a foreign language usually in most high schools.
That's right.
So I had my 2 years done. And then I was taking Spanish 3. This is a funny story. And my tennis coach was a Spanish 3 teacher, and he would be in class talking to me about matchups and practice, and I'm like, man, I'm not trying to hear all that.
Like, what's up with the Spanish?
Yeah, we could talk about that after school or whatever. And so I went to my guidance counselor, and I was like, I will do whatever it takes to get out of this Spanish 3 class. And the only class that was open was like a newspaper journalism class, right?
Nice.
So I had always done well in English and stuff, but I never thought about being a writer or anything. And then I got the opportunity to like write about the high school football games. So I didn't play football, but like all my homeboys did.
And so that's probably a big sport of the school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so I got to like make them seem like they were superheroes with the stuff I was able to write. And I ended up liking it. I went to a journalism camp at FAMU. Turns out that I was like the only kid in the camp who was actually going to school there the next year. Actually, the first year I applied for it, I didn't make it. I didn't get into the camp. And so, and then went on and that ended up being my major and ended up being my career. So.
Awesome. For those that love sports, like I'm an avid sports fan. I love sports. I love everything about sports. We debate sports all day. We all have a take on sports. We all think we know something about sports. But are you working?
Yeah, man, I'm definitely working. That's for sure. I tell people this all the time when they ask me about like my job and stuff like that. It's a fun job. It's dope. It's a lot of fun. A lot of times, like, everybody, I would say every job has its job aspects, like things that, you probably wouldn't do if it weren't a part of the job. Yeah. But man, I also know people with what I call like real jobs. Not that my job isn't a real job, and their job has a lot more of those aspects. So I want to act like it's not fun. I enjoy it, like especially with the staff. With the staff that I have, we talk about how that came to be, maybe a little bit later. But like it's so dope to the point where when we're out, like when we're away, we go on vacation, like we miss each other. We just miss working with each other. So, but we're definitely working. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. One of the biggest questions I get is like, what do you guys do during the off season? And the real answer is there really is no off season. There's a time where we're not playing games, but it's not like that. Actually, that's probably where more work is being done. That's where you have to do a lot more project management. So you look at like football. Of course, there's 17 games and 3 or 4 games in the playoffs if you make it that far. So the games are only played in this like 4 or 5 month window. But if they're the most profitable sports league in the world, obviously they know how to generate revenue throughout the year. And so they do that through stuff like as soon as the season ends, you got the combine coming up. That's right. You got the draft coming up. Right after draft, you got schedule release, that's the day where you're going to drive more single game ticket sales than any other day in the year. So there's huge business ends associated with that. And then right after that, rookies report for rookie mini camp, and you basically just start everything back over. And so there's a ton of planning that has to go into this. And that's probably another difference between the NBA and the NFL. The NBA, you have 82 game days, and then you have 82 days where you're coming out of a game. So that's 164 days of your calendar marked up by games. In the NFL, you have like 17 and maybe a few extra game days. You're trying to drive all of your traffic to your website, to your social channels on those benchmark, we call them tentpole event days and stuff like that. So you have to really be, and not to say that you don't do that in the NBA, but you have to really be a project manager, really be able to map out how you're going to go after these certain objectives and achieve certain things. And so it's definitely a huge job aspect to it. It's big business, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Being in this podcast, doing this, I get a chance to sit down with brothers like you and I get to learn so much, and I'm hopeful that we're able to share some information with others. I think loving what you do is an important part of being successful. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think I don't think it's necessarily like a must for everybody. But I think that if you can, it depends on how you approach life, vocation, how you approach work, right?
Okay.
Some jobs in and of themselves are just fun. Like if you're a professional athlete, you started playing this game, because playing a game because it's fun. If you are able to retain that, of course, it makes it that much easier. So I think like it matters, like, what motivates you and why you're motivated.
Okay.
For me, just in a like strict sense, in what I do is it feeds my competitive nature. Obviously, I'm not an athlete. Like you said, I'm an ex athlete, right?
Well, that's what you said.
That's what I said. Yeah. I'm an ex athlete, right? So, but I'm competitive. So like, the example I give is like, if me and you just at the basketball court and we just shooting change, like we just shooting, right? We're not competing against each other, but in my mind, I'm competing because I'm keeping track of how many shots you've made, how many I've made. And so in this business, in the social media space, there's so many metrics. Like you can see how many page views your website got, how many likes, how many, I guess they call it's X now, it's not Twitter, how many reposts, how many shares, all of that.
All right. Thank you all for joining the show. Just a quick reminder, if you like the content that you're receiving and you want to help us out, we really would appreciate that. If you want to help, you can go to our Cash App, which is $, the Pro Formula, or you can go to our Patreon account, which is patreon.com/the Pro Formula. Thank you so much. Your support means the world to us.
In the league, every week you get a report to see how you stack up against all 31 other teams. And so for me, it feeds my competitive nature. And a lot of the people that work on my team or that work on our marketing team are like that as well. So it's just competing in a different way. But I think that's not the only motivating factor for doing well on your job. But for me, that's a huge one.
I think that's the key right there. That's the key to success is you got to be willing to compete and still put yourself out there. And I won't put myself out there as an athlete anymore because I don't have it any longer. But I love to compete. When I was driving on my way here for my interview, it was a car that was right next to me, and it seemed like he was trying to beat me. I don't know if I'm competing with myself or I was competing with him, but I'm gonna tell you, I was out there trying to make sure that I was there. So I think one of the keys to success is being competitive and taking some pride in the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I think that's universal. Like you have to take pride in what you do. Shout out to Brooke Hopfe. She's a new staffer of ours. She was an intern that we kept over. But one of the things that I love about Brooke is like her work ethic. Like one thing I noticed about her is like how she does anything is how she does everything. Whether the task is small or whether the task is, big or has more implications. Like if she's taking notes, she's taking notes to the best of her ability. If she has a presentation, she's doing that to the best of her ability. And that's with a lot of people that I work with, a lot of talented people. So let me pause and say, Amon Lott, Charlie Jordan, we mentioned, Brooke Hopfe, Jennifer Garabaglia, Will Pease, Cam Shooter Hicks. So like that's the team of people that I get to work with. I want to make sure I mention them, but they all have that about them, is that they take pride in what they do and it means something to them.
Shout out to the team. Just as we're talking about the team and developing team dynamics, what are things that you look for in those team members, and how do you continue to find these type of team members that are going to be productive or that are going to fit the kind of culture that you're looking to build within your program?
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback off of what we were just talking about. Passion and pride is what is something that fuels people. That's always good, right? Now, of course, like on the basic level, you gotta have the rudimentary skills. Like
you gotta be on paper. You gotta check the boxes. You
gotta check those boxes, and then how you differentiate yourself amongst all of the people that do check the boxes, right? Like if you're hiring for a content producer, like they have to be able to shoot and edit. Kind of like that's a basic thing, but how they differentiate themselves. Like I use Cameron Hicks as an example. Cam is just passionate about like capturing content in the way that he presents it. So a couple years ago, we were playing the Rams, and so we went to LA to cover the Rams, and so we found out that Sierra Canyon was playing at Staples Center. They had just changed the crypto at the time, so we was like, we want to go see LeBron James' son play. We're gonna go to this game, but I was just doing it like, this is like the game is tomorrow, but tonight we're gonna go watch this game, just have a good time. So we're sitting down, and it's a high school thing, so of course the arena's not packed out, so we get to sit a little bit closer, and like Cam is with his phone, like capturing the whole time, and he's like putting together this video. That's just what he does. It's almost like an extension of him. Like, he captures content. He sees things. When he sees something happening, he's on it, and he's thinking about, how can I put this together? How can I make this cool? He's always testing new things. Like, we were just in the office the other day, and he made a post where he was working with like different shutter speeds. He slowed the shutter speeds on his camera down. Then I look over at his computer, and he's like looking up. He wants to buy a VHS camera so he can start filming like the old school vintage VHS style. And these are not things that like I'm asking him or as his director telling him to do. Like, this is just what he's passionate about, and that comes across in his work. I think so. That's one of the big things for me, is like you can kind of tell if a person is passionate about it. Sometimes you can't tell that like in 2D. Like, if I just got your resume, I don't know, but I can look at your work and kind of see like how good you are, at least.
Yeah. Well, for me, I've been a director for a while. And I read a book that was called The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni, one of my favorite books. And it really helped me identify the type of people that I want to hire. And it talks about hiring people that are hungry, people that are humble, and people that are after going out there and getting it. So when I'm interviewing people and looking for people, I'm looking, do they have those traits? It's cool with you that you can actually say, pull up some of your videos. Let me see some of the work that you've done. Yeah.
For sure. I think when you're talking about being hungry, that's another thing that's big. I call it being intrinsically motivated.
Yeah, man.
Of course, like,
nobody got to tell you to go get it. Somebody who's intrinsically motivated, they have the fire inside of them to go figure it out.
Absolutely, because the thing is like, I want people who have aspirations beyond where they're at right now. Like I don't want anybody to be content. Like, one of the things somebody early in my career told me was like, if you're working for me, you're gonna be moving up or you're gonna be moving out. And out don't mean like I'm gonna fire you.
That's right.
Out means like you may get hired by somebody else to do a bigger and a better role.
That's right.
But just that person who's saying like, I'm here for me because look, I'm T, and everything that I do represents me, and I have to be able to merchandise what I do to other employers, or if I want to start my own thing to future clients. So that person is waking up every day because they're intrinsically motivated, because they know that their work represents them, and that's something like I can't give you that.
Yeah, I love an intrinsically motivated person. I think, when you have to constantly provide extrinsic motivation or provide them with incentives, which I think is important too. Yeah. People should get bonuses if that's the structure of your compensation plan. But more than anything, they've got to have that will and have that desire to themselves. Yep. I want to switch gears just a little bit and learn a little bit about where that comes from inside of you. And I want to transition by asking, like, what would 10-year-old Nick think of the life that you're living right now? Like, if you could look back at him, which I know is weird to like go in the third person and talk to yourself, but how would he feel about the life that you built?
Man, I hope that he would be proud. I think he probably would think that my job is cool. I'm thinking about how I was in 4th or 5th grade. There's some cool aspects to my job that I think he would be attracted to. I think one of the things around 4th grade is where I start seeing the importance of, old folks say, what you hang around, what you're going to be like. And so I was always, and I don't even think this, I think this is just God, man. Like I was always blessed just to have friends that were like doing good and doing positive things. And those are the guys that I gravitated toward. Like, I remember in the 4th grade, one of my good friends growing up, my boy Alio, like, he was always the best at basketball. He was always better than me. And I remember meeting him at the park, and I was like, man, I need some of what he got. And even when we were in the same 4th grade class together, he did the multiplication tables faster than me. But we were always boys. He always, even though he wasn't like, in the 10th grade or in the 4th grade, he ain't saying like, hey, man, I'm motivating you. But just, I knew like, man, if I do what this guy's doing, if I'm hanging around him, I'm probably going to be in a better situation. And that's something that even in college, man, I was just blessed with good friends. So I think 4th grade Nick would think my job was pretty cool, and and hopefully like he'd be I won't say proud, but hopefully he'd think my job was pretty cool, and maybe be a little bit motivated by me, I guess.
I want to touch on something that you said just now that I think is a jewel and is a key to success and a part of a professional's formula it's talking about your circle, the people that you surround yourself with. And I think you've always got to, I always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I got to get myself into a room with somebody who's smarter than me. I got to get myself into a room with somebody who wants more than me. I was very intelligent when I was a young kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, I naturally had wit. I was intelligent. I could score well. But some of the people in my neighborhood that I grew up with, that wasn't their focus, and I call it dumbing down, but I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. What I mean is I leveled down at times where I wanted to fit in with those that were cool, or I used to get teased for being on the honor roll, and like, man, look at you, man, this dude was a little smart dude and all that. And so I found that to be something that I had to grow through and grow up through. What was it like for you? Obviously you had intellect as well, and you were motivated by some of your classmates as well, but how did you keep yourself focused and stay on that track, or did you?
Yeah, I mean, I did for the most part. I think, again, like, just being blessed to have, like, the clique that I was in. I tell people this all the time. Like, there were probably kids that were getting, picked on or whatever for being smart, but I never was cool with them kids. So, like, it didn't impact me. They were, like, in a different clique. So, like, my friends, like, we always started, like, one, we did well in school and we played ball. So I think, like, the playing ball thing in most neighborhoods or whatever, like, that's going to give you a certain amount of credibility. Like, you can't really say nothing if I'm one of the best basketball players in the neighborhood. True. But, like, I never thought, like, you got to be in school all day anyway. What is the point of, like, being there and you ain't doing nothing or you ain't learning nothing? Like, and I ain't saying, like, that to criticize people. I'm not saying that to criticize anybody, but like, we just always thought doing well in both, and maybe it was, like, the competitive nature in us with school. Like, I remember, like, we would get our report cards and literally be looking at, you got all A's, or you got all A's and a B, or you got a C, like, comparing them, and then we'll go and, like, get after it on the basketball court. Like, it always went hand in hand for us. Like, me, like I said, my boy Alio, my boy Dre, he's like a year younger than us. But, like, that was we always thought both were cool. I don't really know.
Are you still connected with those brothers?
Yeah, those are my guys. Obviously, we don't, like, communicate as much as we used to, but yeah, we still cool to this day.
Man, I got an event. I'll call it an event. I don't have an event. The Denver Broncos have an event coming up in September, and me and my boys were all meeting in Miami to go to the game, and I found myself to still be connected with those friends that were good for me. It's like I got new circles, I got new people that I hang with, but I still find myself wanting to be around those people that know me. I want to just ask you, how has it been for you as you've taken this next step in your career with acclimating and making new friends?
Yeah, man, that's probably, like, one of the more probably more difficult things. I think it's in general, like, as an adult, like, typically when you're growing up, you meet your friends at school. You know what I mean? School is a little bit more social than work. Like, work, you have to go in, do what you got to do. You might leave, or you might be in meetings with these people. Some people have very, like, strict lines between, like, keeping their friends separate from their business, and like, ain't nothing wrong with that. I see the wisdom in it. And then nowadays too, like, a lot of work is so remote, or a lot of work is, like, on the move, and so you're kind of operating in silos. So I think as an adult, it's definitely been more difficult than, like, quote unquote, like, making friends. I think, like, just being social is cool. I'm not, like, we've talked prior to this, but, like, I'm not, like, the most, like, outgoing person in the world anyway. And so
you surprising me with your energy today. I'm like,
I told you I was gonna have to try to match your energy. Plus, man, I want your podcast to be good. Like, I don't want to be like, you talk to me on the phone. I'm usually, like, super laid back.
Coolest dude I ever talked on the phone to. Bro, don't never get hype about nothing. Be just chill. I'm super excited, and he'll say something like, man, I really think you onto something, man. That's a really cool idea that you got there. And I'm thinking, does he like my idea, or does he not?
Yeah, man. So that's just how I am. Like we were saying before, like, my mom used to tell me growing up, like, the house would be on fire, and Nick would be like, hey, man, I really think, like, we should all gather our belongings and depart so that we don't get engulfed by the flames. Because who would want to go out like that? That's just how I am.
I'm fired up. I'm like, Mama, they're out the kitchen. We gotta get them. Yeah. Get what you can get, because we gotta get out of there.
Yeah. So like, I think, like, some people say they have their friends, and then they have their friends that they met at work, and I don't really know, man. I'm still kind of working through that. working through that. But I think just, being you and letting relationships happen organically, whoever gravitates towards you is cool. But also see the benefit in some people who I wouldn't say forceful, but who are just intentional about making relationships with certain people.
I'm making this dude my friend. He ain't been trying to I'm making brother my friend. I call him. I'm trying to hang out with him. I'm trying to figure out how we can get connected. Because I moved out here to Florida, y'all, 2 years ago, and I was a remote worker.
Yeah.
And I need to be around the water cooler. I need to talk to somebody. Did you see the game last night? And wifey is so happy I'm at the house, and she's just living her best life. I'm miserable. I got to get around some human beings. I need some human connection. So thank you for providing me with a little bit of human stimulation, man. I appreciate that.
Same, man. Likewise, man. Like I always say, like, I'm so laid back that, like, if I usually, like, a lot of my friends or, like, people that I'm drawn to are, like, more outgoing, you know what I mean, than me.
Opposites attract on them.
Yeah, because if I was just friends with people who were like me, we'd bore each other to death,
y'all might not even ever talk to each other or see each other.
For real, yeah.
You like, hold on, but I understand that because my wife is on the other end of the spectrum and she is in her best world. Shout out to my wife from that.
Yeah,
she's in her best world.
My wife, she is this outgoing, you know what I mean? Like she just has that naturally. That's I'm the opposite from that. But I'm like even like I was saying about Amon a lot. Our social media specialist, shout out to Amon, Duval County's finest, Rains High School, Viking. Shout out to my guy, Rattler as well. Everybody know Amon. You might, if you don't know him in Jacksonville, you're gonna know him because he's like, I always say, I wish I had his personality. He's just a super outgoing person, man.
Shout out to Amon.
Like never met a stranger before. I'm like, man, if I had what you had, like I would I'd be on top of the world, man. But that's different sorts of different folks. But I've always been drawn to people who have that in them.
Yeah, I like that. I wonder, what are some things that you took as a child? Like for me, I'll give you an example of what I'm about to ask you. When I was a kid, I was the leader and the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, though, at the time. But we would have to, I ran track growing up, and we were going to trips. And the kids would, I'd have to raise money so that I could go out of town. And we were selling world's finest chocolate bars. And my sister would always be like, brother, I'll go with you, but you're going to have to ring the doorbell and talk. She'd ring the doorbell, but I was the one that had to talk to the people.
Yeah.
When it snowed, we'd be like, yeah, boy, it's time to get to some money. But they'd be like, but you got to be the one to go talk to them at the front door. They would be ready to start shoveling. They had no problem. I realized I was a leader, and I was also a mouthpiece at a young age. Yeah. What were some of the, and it's carried over into my career now.
Yeah.
People follow my vision. I'm able to put together a vision. People get excited about it, and they get fired up about it. What are some skills that you had when you were younger that you find yourself still tapping into today?
Yeah, I wish that I could say like it was like vocal leadership, but it's definitely not. I think for me, like the ability to write is has been like the thing that's the most beneficial for me. So obviously, I told you like the first half of my career, I was a sports reporter, like a newspaper journalist, right? And so I thought coming into the team space, this is something new. These people have worked for teams their entire career or longer than I have, and it was going to be like this, just a huge shift for me, which it was in a lot of ways. But man, the ability to be able to like hear something or read something, synthesize it into something that's palatable for other people and that's communicable, like that's a huge advantage for me. Like that's just been a huge advantage for me. Like I can write out a one-sheeter. I can write out a deck or whatever, and I know that I can write it in a way that you can understand it. That I'm pretty sure the person that's receiving it can understand it. I can spell. I can put sentences together. Obviously, I got a degree in journalism, so but man, that's a huge thing. Like for a lot of people, that's really a difficult thing for them, or they struggle with it. And so for me, like just to be able to communicate in that way has been beneficial.
I think it's cool when you understand what your gifts are. I was recently at a seminar and his brother said, your gift is what comes easy to you, but it's hard for others.
Yeah.
And when I heard him say that, I said, I want to repeat that to y'all. Your gift is what comes easy to you, but it's hard for others. And a lot of times, if you really look at your life, you'll understand what your gift was. You had that gift when you were 7 years old, or when you were 10 years old, or 15 years old. But then you went away from that trying to be something else. And I think it's important. J. Cole, shout out to J. Cole. He got a song called Love Yours. And in that song, he's just saying, yeah, somebody's probably got a bigger house. Somebody's probably got a finer wife. but love your wife, love your house, love what you have. And I think when you look inside of yourself and see what your talents and what your gifts are, and you just fall in love with that, it's a lot easier than me trying to be Nick. So when you always say, well, not always, you just said a couple minutes ago, you're like, man, I wish I had a mind's talent. But that's what makes a mind a mind.
Yeah,
your talent is what makes you you.
For sure.
I'm gonna be weird with you one more time. If you could talk to 10-year-old Nick and you could just have like a quick conversation with him, you could provide him with any kind of advice. What advice would you provide to 10-year-old Nick?
I'm gonna answer that, but you saying what you just said made me think of another one of my team members, and I think I may have forgot to shout about Devin Carvajal, our creative content manager. But he's like that. Like Devin is such a great creative, and it just comes natural, it just comes easy to him. He thinks like creatively. Like if you guys look at the Jaguars social media channels, a lot of like the funny memes you see or the GIFs or the super dope graphics. If you see a super dope graphic on our channels, 9 times out of 10, Devin is the one who made it, and the stuff just comes to him like that. And he can't, if you ask him how, a lot of times he like, I don't really know how, man. That's just how I am. That's how I think. And he's always showcasing new talents that he has. Like, I didn't even know this guy could draw. Man, dude can illustrate. He can draw. He can DJ. Of course, he's a fire graphic designer. He can design shirts and clothes and stuff like that. And it's just a reflection of like who he is. That's just in him. So I just wanted to say that real quick. Like that, it crystallized in my head while you were saying what you were saying. And then you were saying, what would I say to 10-year-old me?
Yeah.
I think I would say to 10-year-old me, you know the old quote, youth is wasted on the young, as they say. And so I would probably say some stuff that 10-year-old me won't be trying to hear, won't be trying to listen to. But I would say, man, definitely, listen to your elders, man. Like, the older you get, the more you
crazy.
Yeah.
We go back, like our elders were giving us so much knowledge, but we didn't want to hear them.
Youth is wasted on the youth, man. That's how I go when you're young. You're not trying to hear stuff, and then you have, I don't want to call them regrets, but you look back on stuff differently when you're older. But I would say I think that's probably like the people who win a lot, or people who win a lot, they realize those things at a younger age. Okay. Like what's really important, what to value, things of that nature. And when you get older, it becomes a little bit clearer because you have the benefit of retrospect, of looking back at it. So I would say, man, your mom and your dad ain't telling you no lies, man. They really know what they're talking about. Your older brother, your sisters, they really know what they're talking about. Listen to them. So that would probably be one of the biggest things right there.
I call my mom and dad all the time, and I tell them, and shout out mom and dad, I know y'all watching. I always tell them I'm sorry. Yeah. God, you told me this. If I had to just listen to you, and we thought we knew everything.
Oh yeah.
But the older I'm getting, the more I realize, like my dad used to say, the name of the game is the same. It has not changed. It's all the same.
It ain't nothing new under the sun. The funny thing is like I say that all the time about social media. It's full of like 23-year-old experts. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody's a coach.
Yeah, it's 20. How are you? So let me get this right. You were a 24-year-old life coach.
Yeah.
Like, you've been legal for like 6 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you a 24-year-old life coach? You know what I'm saying?
I tell my kids all the time, your cup is full with your little 17 and 18-year-old information. Pour some of that out. Yeah. Let me pour a little bit of this wisdom in there, and then leave some room for other people to add to your cup. But when you're already 18 years old and your cup is already full, if I try to pour anything on that, it's gonna just go over to the side, and you ain't gonna catch none of that.
Yeah, like you've been working in whatever field you in for like 2 years, but you know everything about it. Like, okay.
Shout out to all the Instagram coaches out there. To all the Instagram coaches, these culture coaches. I ain't making fun of you. I'm just saying. You guys have figured it out a lot sooner than I was able to figure it out.
Exactly. For sure.
So you would tell 10-year-old Nick, listen to your elders, and that's awesome. Now that we're not elders though yet, right?
Man, we the OGs now.
We're the OGs now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just the YG, just the little G, just not too long ago, but I guess I'm the OG now. Yeah. What are some things that you're looking for in your career, like over the next few years, some things that you're looking to accomplish, or what's the next step for you?
Oh, man. Now I'm going to hit you with it. That's a great question. Whenever somebody say that, they're really trying to think.
They're trying to get themselves.
They don't have an answer. Yeah, man. I think for me, in the immediate, like continuing to grow the Jaguars brand, like I think a lot of times, like because we're the smallest market team in the NFL, like we have to kind of punch above our weight class.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact. Yeah.
Jacksonville is the smallest market in the NFL.
Yeah, man. Jacksonville, Florida. Look at in comparison. Also, too, we're an expansion team. You know what I mean?
True.
So it really got there, started in '95, and so you talking about like story franchises like the Packers and the Bears,
the Broncos.
You know what I mean? The Broncos as well. In comparison, yeah. So we try to punch above our weight class, and I think just moving us more into being more of a national, more into an international brand is like one of my goals, and playing my part in that. There's a slew of people who we work with that are helping do that, but yeah, that's probably in the immediate like professional goal.
What are some of the things that you got to do to keep growing the brand and to keep growing yourself professionally?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you got to do, number one, success on the field is huge, and I think like we're in a good position with the head coach, with Doug Peterson, with Trent Baalke, with obviously Trevor Lawrence at quarterback to be moving in the right direction. And so being able to capitalize on that and being able to capitalize on those moments, and being ready from a content standpoint, having the team in place to capitalize on those big moments. I think capitalizing on those big moments is probably one of the big things that we have to do. As
the success grows, you're gonna have to grow your team because, like you said, some of those people are gonna get other opportunities.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit about what those people are like, what you're looking for in those particular employees. But is there growth for you within that?
Yeah.
Arena as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the, and I'm not just saying this because I work there, but I think that's one of the cool things about working for the Jaguars is that they really value people, more than a lot of places, I would say. And so they will really help you develop a growth plan. Like, for example, Devin, who I was just telling you about, Devin came in, 5 years ago, Devin was was an intern in Foundation, which does a lot of, and now he's like a creative content manager on the social side. And that's because they saw his talent, saw his abilities, and kind of made a way for him. So there's definitely room for growth there. Our team is always growing. One of the things, one of my mentors, I don't like to say mentor, but whatever, I guess one of my mentors. Shout out my guy, Eric.
Why don't you like saying mentors?
I always say this, because this is the thing, a lot of people, when you use that term, they feel like this is the person who has guided you to where you're at, or this is the person, and I heard, I don't know if you know the rapper Toby and Wigway is, but he gave this cool example one time of saying, if your car breaks down and you're on the side of the road, right? And you need some help. If you sit in your car and wait for somebody to come and help you, you're probably going to be sitting there for a long time, right? But if you get out and start pushing your car, you'll be surprised how quickly somebody get out and helps. You know what I mean? I always tell people, man, ain't nobody gonna look out for you like you. You got to be your own mentor. You got to be checking out opportunities. If you want to do a podcast, you got to look into what's the best way for you to do that. A person can come and give you some little jewels every now and again. And I think that's really what mentorship is. Okay. But man, forget what I was doing, man. It's all good. But yeah, that's not, so I kind of steer clear of that word sometimes because it can kind of be misinterpreted. And some people use it as an excuse, I don't have a mentor. I never really had one, like that for sure. I had people to help me out here and there along the way, but it wasn't, me driving the car, obviously God, my family, my friends and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you got to chart out your own path type of thing. I know where I was going. He was saying your social media plan is never going to be smaller. It's always going to be growing, always going to be bigger. So I think there's things that we need to capitalize on in growing our brand and growing the team's brand. And I'm just looking forward to playing whatever part I can in that. There's some things that I like that I'm super passionate about, and some things that I know I need to grow in as well.
Yeah, man, I dig that. I want to just kind of help the audience understand what's a day in your life like. What's some routines and some habits that you have? Because obviously you at one of the highest levels of where you can get to. I know you don't want to say that, but you work for a professional.
I'm middle management out here.
But you're working with a professional. You're in a $1 billion industry. So if you ain't gonna give yourself some flowers, I'm gonna give you some flowers. But I want to
appreciate it.
In all due truth, I want to understand, what does your day look like? What is the day in Nick's life?
Yeah, again, that's a great question. But I think honestly in Louisville, some people really have a rock solid routine, right? That they know they can go to. That's foundational for them. That helps them keep everything intact. That's something that I'm still working on. I'm always trying to do that, and I'm not consistent with it. So some days,
he's being humble, y'all.
No, for real. I need a better routine. Right now, I'm not working out, at all. Period. I read, but I need to be more consistent. I need to be more focused with it. And so shout out to one of my friends, my boy Ramon Bellingame. He got us doing a Bible in a year plan, so I do that. Oh, nice. But yeah, man, like I think for me, I like that a lot of my days are different, but basically from a work standpoint, like every morning, 9 a.m., we have we call it a daily social digital huddles where we talk about all our activations, everything we got going on in that day. We have some other kind of like benchmark. We have some other kind of meetings based around certain projects, but we start out our day by planning our day. You know what I'm saying? We look back on what we were doing. Yeah, roadmap. We start up, and it's basically so nothing slips through the cracks. And I think like having my team at least come together initially to start the day with some togetherness. It's a good time to talk to everybody because you might be doing different things. And it's also a good thing to make sure that you're on point and on target. A lot of people talk about like planning in the big picture. You got to make sure you're on point for the day. Yeah. So that's one of the things. One of the things that I try to do, and then it depends on what day it is. That's different. We have a lot of meetings, you know, it's corporate America, so there's a ton of meetings, and then there's a ton of like activating, like publishing that we have to do on our channels and stuff. And a lot of my day is kind of like guiding those things through, making sure I'm keeping track of what's coming ahead in the short term and in the long term. I, you know, take calls. It's a job, man. I take calls. Like I always tell people, like if you were to shadow me, it might not be like the most interesting thing in the world. I think it'd probably be more interesting to shadow like somebody who's like a content creator because they're the person that gets to put the camera in front of the players and interact with them and stuff like that. So a lot of my day is really just making sure like I start the day understanding what our goals and objectives are and helping our team like achieve them throughout the day.
Yeah, I can respect that. Just kind of shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to learn a little bit about if you could provide just a couple pieces of wisdom to content creators who are out there, people who are out there trying to build their social media platforms. Jacksonville is the number 5 Twitter team, if I understand that correct. Number 5 Twitter team in the entire NFL.
According to Complex, we are. Yes, sir.
Okay, so shout out to you and shout out to your team for all of that. What are just some basic tricks and some things that you would provide and you could let the audience know on how to grow a better followership or create better content?
Yeah, I think number one is not number one, but it's the person that came to my mind. Someone says number one. Not like I'm ranking them, but consistency is key. Yeah. Because I think if you're consistent, you're gonna start finding like commonalities and trends, and you're gonna it's almost like doing market research. Like you got to understand your market. So like our voice on social media is something that our fans really appreciate. But the way that we've developed that is we understand kind of like the idiosyncrasies and liquidities of our fans, like they're kind of quirky, the inside jokes, the things that they're passionate about, the things that we know are going to resonate with, or we're going to resonate with them, so on and so forth. And so being consistent and like being social on social media, like don't just post, reply, interact, engage. Yeah. You know what I mean? Understand like there's influencers, and I know that's a crazy word right now, but tastemakers amongst the people that are following you. Find out, and this is really like a business thing. There are all clients, customers, fans, whatever you want to call them, aren't created equal. There are some people who are invested at a higher level. So, right, like we have season ticket members. Those people are extremely important, right? Okay. And so if you have a clothing line, you want to know who's copping the most gear and what resonates with them. And so you really got to understand your market, and posting consistently and interacting and engaging will help you kind of understand that. Reading the comments, making sure you're going through to see what your fans are talking about, and stuff like that. I think that's really important. That'll help you establish a voice. And then also kind of carve out your niche a little bit. Okay. Make sure they know when they come to your channels what they're going to get, the type of stuff, some people are really good at talking about sports. Some people are really good at talking about movies. Some people are, and then make sure that, I would say this, have a high threshold for quality. You know what I mean? Make sure that when you post something, you basically are presenting to the marketplace, right? So when you step out, you want to step correct. If you do a video, man, make sure the video is high quality. You know what I mean? Make sure make sure the video is the right aspect ratio, right? Like this is a Snapchat. This is a Instagram story. I need a 9:16 video. I need a vertical video. I can post a 16:9 on YouTube or on Twitter, but it's not going to look right on my phone. You know what I mean? So when I say that, I mean like on a vertical platform. So understand the aspect ratios. portrait mode versus a square, all of that stuff is important. I think how you present is important. So that's the couple things that came to mind real quick.
No, I appreciate that because, my social media game needs some work, man. I find myself, but it's the opposite of what you're talking about. I'm very inconsistent. I might post a video or post something every couple of weeks. I get a ton of engagement and then I'm off for another few weeks. Absolutely. Or I do some lurking. I might get on there and look through and scroll through my timeline, but I'm not interacting and I'm not posting and I'm not commenting on some of those things. And I wonder if that's just me needing to get out of my own way, and you can't advise me. He's turning into my counselor all of a sudden.
Nah, man.
But I think, sometimes we're experiencing, and for those people that don't have really strong social media followings, get out of your own way, y'all. Just start creating content and putting the content out there, high quality content. Make sure you're curating it towards your audience is what I'm hearing you say. And you'll see some growth. Where did you all start when you joined the Jags? Where were you all ranked?
I know that the previous social media rankings, like I can just talk about year over year from last year to this year real quick. We went from 17 to 5 on the complex rankings. And I think the complex rankings are pretty cool because it's not just about volume, right? Like, of course, like we're not the Cowboys. They're going to have volume. But they kind of take into account like your voice, the quality of what you do, stuff like that. So just being able to see that improvement going from 17 to 5.
That's nice.
Our schedule release video this year was incredible. We worked with an actor named Gridiron, who's on CBS Ghost, who did a great job with it, and worked with one of his director friends, flew a guy from Australia. He was incredible. And then, of course, our team. And so it was like one of the most viewed schedule release videos this year. And so just upping the quality of what we did, I think was huge. And we were able to see kind of just an uptick going from 17 to 5, going to having one of the most viewed schedule release videos, stuff like that.
Awesome. Congratulations to you all, to your team.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I guess in this last piece, I want to just learn a little bit about, I know faith plays a big part, in your life. Talk to me about your spirituality and how that's helped you stay grounded and how it's helped you ascend in your career or just even in your personal, professional life.
Yeah, man. I think, for me, that's huge. That's like everything. Like this professional stuff is great. But at the end of the day, like Baba says, like there comes a day where we're gonna have to face judgment and give an account for the deeds that we've done in the flesh, and Christ paid the price for our sins. He's going to judge us by a righteous standard. Like God is holy, God is righteous, He's just, and if He's a good judge, He's going to judge us by that standard. The Bible says, like, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, and the wages of sin is death. So it says, if you've broken that standard, then you're deserving of what the punishment for it is. Christ lived a perfect life. A righteous life, said he was tempted in every way as we are, yet without sin. And so if we place our faith not in our own works and our deeds, but in what He did on the cross, then we can be forgiven and given a righteous standard with God and not the guilty standard that we deserve. And so, like, that's foundational, man.
And that's cold right there. That's like just saying that, like, it rocks your core when you hear. And again, I'm very spiritual, I believe as well. But it's like when you hear, you're going to be called to account for all the things that you're doing. Mm-hmm. That should mark your steps a little bit, right?
That's right.
It's
and
like,
because
you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and you do too.
Yeah,
that's the hard part about it. Yeah. Like you can front of yourself, you know what I mean, but you can't front of the Lord. And so, man, like, and I think like that like gives you a different motivation, right? When you're not working to earn something that was given to you, but you're living in light of it, like, because I'm forgiven, like this stuff is all good and it's all important. But the reason that you do it, your motivation behind what you're doing is everything. And so if you're doing it because I'm working, I'm doing this podcast, I'm doing this social media as unto the Lord, like that should raise the level of how you do it, why you do it. You want to do it with excellency, but man, just making sure that your soul is secure, that you're good, and having that gives you a freedom. You know what I mean? Like to explore. I was gonna say when you were talking about being consistent on social media and stuff, hey man, just explore, just start doing it, man. You're gonna figure it out. Like your first workout, it ain't gonna be good. Your first podcast ain't gonna be as good as your 10th one. You know what I mean? Right. And so when you have the most important thing, your eternity secure, this temporal stuff that we're going through here, you could attack that with a lot more freedom and a lot more patience.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm getting better, man. I'm going to keep working through it. I'm gonna keep
so.
on. Last segment, man, I call this Settle the Score. And this is just 5 questions that I have for you.
All right, let's do it.
You just answer them to your honesty. Who had a bigger impact on you and on the culture? Would you say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X?
Now, I wasn't prepared for this one.
Yeah, I didn't tell you this one.
Yeah, you ain't tell me this one. And this is a tough one right here because you're gonna get judged one way or the other. You don't know what your answer on this one is, man. This is a tough one. I would say Martin.
Okay.
I would say Martin just because his nonviolent approach it took away any of the excuses.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? And also the way that he was able to do it with and not that Malcolm X did. Like one of the first book reports I did in high school was I read an autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh.
That's actually my 2 favorite movies are Forrest Gump and Malcolm X.
Wow.
So I love Malcolm X, but I think Martin just for his lasting impact. And I think a lot of this stuff. Dang, you about to make me talk about this crazy stuff, but that's cool. That's what it is. So I think that a lot of the stuff that was going on. You remember when Malcolm got kicked out of the nation?
Yeah.
I think a lot of that drama, and how people perceive the nation, impacted how people view his legacy.
He was tied to something that almost brought his value down.
Exactly. And I'm talking about the specific actions of those people in that time. And he did interviews about it, so this ain't me talking. Y'all go YouTube it and find out for yourself. But and I think like a lot of people shortchange Martin. They don't look at the whole of his work and what he was able to do, and especially what he was trying to do right before he was assassinated. Like a lot of people don't understand that.
He was really trying to turn this thing economically, man. He realized that the real power was going to be in economics.
Yeah.
And we always talk about I had a dream, but really he was saying, he really said, I fear I led my people into a burning building because he hadn't brought the economic side into it soon enough. Yeah. So
and to your point, like soon enough is the key because I mean the dude was our age when he died. Like I'm still trying to figure regular stuff out. This dude was leading a movement, dog. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my answer for that one. Let's go.
All right, here we go. This next one makes everybody want to fight. I don't know why we want to fight about this, but is it Mike or is it LeBron?
This one actually might be more controversial than the first one.
That's what I said. You got to be careful on this.
All right. What are we talking about?
Who's the best?
Best basketball player?
Who's better?
LeBron.
LeBron's better than Michael Jordan?
Yes.
Oh, my God. You got people, okay. I ain't going to argue with you on that one.
If we talking about all-around basketball player, like whatever you need done on the court, it's LeBron James. And then we could also talk about like context and stuff like that. And I know, like, look, man, if you make an argument for either one of them, I argue with you. I love me some Mike. Yeah. I just think all-around basketball player, LeBron can score, assist. He can be your point guard. He can be your power forward. He basically is positionless basketball. He's LeBron James, and you put some pieces around him, and y'all gonna be successful. And the fact that he's still doing it is still at the level that he's doing it, going into year 21. Like he playing against guys whose dad played in the league against him, and he's still one of the best, man. Jordan, the Wizards years, those didn't exist. Years before when the Pistons,
he was balling with the Wizards. The
years before when the Pistons were putting him out of the playoffs. We don't talk about it now. If we talk about who had a better 6 or 7 year stretch, Mike had the greatest 6 or 7 year stretch in the history of team sports, and I love Mike. All right, so we off that.
I want to be your friend now. I'm not sure if I want to be your friend, but I'm joking. I love me some LeBron. I love Mike too. If you had an opportunity to go on vacation, you going to Miami or you going to LA?
Ooh, that's a tough one. And I'm from Florida, and I really only been to Miami a few times. I've been to LA, but not like that. Jeez, man, how much money I got?
You got however much you need. And money ain't the issue.
Money ain't the issue? Because that's a big part when you plan a vacation.
Yeah, the money piece, boy, in LA, you got to have some. Boy.
You know what, man? Honestly, if I got to choose between one of those two, I'm going to do Miami. I'm a Florida boy. I've never, been on South Beach like that. I see, the Key Biscayne and all of that stuff. I might do Miami if I got to choose between the two. I really got a dog in that fight, though.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. What about, you rather read a book or listen to an audible?
Read a book. Man, there's something about like sitting down with a physical book, turning the pages. I even think there's probably like some social science behind like you retain more when you actually read it, because you have to read it and then, you're repeating it against yourself. It's like you learn better when you take notes, like physically writing notes, than when you just listen to something. I love like sitting down and reading a physical book. I probably only like listen to like 2 audiobooks my whole life, and I think one of them I didn't even make it all the way through, so definitely reading physical books.
I'm reading physical books all day long. I love turning pages. I love how it feels when I get to the last page. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I just get fired up, and I love that. Last one, and I think I know the answer for this one, so it'll probably be an easy one for you. Who had a greater impact on the culture? Was it Tupac or was it Nas?
Oh, greater impact on the culture? I think that's easy. That's Tupac, man. Just to be a guy who, passed away or was murdered at 25, and we still talking about him. Just his impact on the culture, even on like flow, like the way that people rap, whether they do it at the level that he did or not. His style. I was just talking to one of my partners who got a clothing line, and we were looking at a picture of Pop from a Carl Kanat ad. So impact on the culture between those two, not even close. That's Pop.
Is it close on the rap? Who's the better rapper?
In my opinion, just lyrically, no. Nas is my favorite rapper ever. I think, but also too, we got to realize, man, like we didn't get to see Pac evolve into what he could have been. Like he was 25, you know what I mean? Like we've seen Nas start from Live at the Barbecue when he was 16, 17 and still making albums now. Like he got to be an artist and grow and develop. Like we got to see Pac for a little snapshot, Yeah,
I can dig that. I want to just thank you for your time today, man. I really have enjoyed getting to know you and really learning a little bit more about your journey. I want to tell you how proud of you I am, brother.
Man, I appreciate it.
He gets so weird when I say things like I'm proud of you.
I'm just a dude on the job. I'm proud of your podcast, man. You got microphones and like being able to set all it up. You got the vision for it. You official with it. I had to sign a waiver. I don't know what you gonna do with all of that. I'm kind of afraid, but like this thing got me signing. Is this a waiver or a disclaimer? You know what I'm saying?
Waiver, man. I'm just saying I can post your video, man.
It's all good.
But I mean it. I think, I want to highlight the professional.
Yeah.
And you're a professional.
Thank you.
And this it's not always about, but there's people higher than me, there's people doing more. It's people doing less. There's some people that don't work for the Jaguars, never worked in the NFL, never worked in the NBA, never will. So I just want to tell you, salute to you, man. Thank you so much for joining the show today. And man, this is the end of our episode today. You've tuned in to the Pro Formula Podcast. I'm hopeful that you enjoyed that. This is my guest today, Mr. Nick Birdsong, and we'll see you next time. Peace be on to you.